You are listening to the TV Obsessive podcast, brought to you by TVObsessive.com.
Okay, welcome back to the TV Obsessive podcast. We're here today for episode 146. As always, I'm Cameron Crane, executive editor. I'm joined by TV Obsessive Ryan Kirksey, writer and site. How you doing today, Ryan?
I am doing excellent. This is a great time to be alive. I've convinced this is my month, Cameron. This is my month, especially right now. We just got Top Chef. We're about to get Daredevil come back. Baseball is next week. This is my time right now.
Yeah, and we got NFL free agency. You've been
That's right.
obsessively following
That's right.
Max Crosby and all that. Anyway, we don't want to risk becoming a football podcast. Yeah, I caught up on For All Mankind. I finished season 4, and I'm ready for season 5, which comes out in a few weeks. I've really enjoyed the show, right? And it's interesting. Like, I've been thinking about it in ways as if we were going to talk about it on the podcast at moments, but like I think it would work well for us to talk about. But I can't expect you to watch 40 hours of TV in the next 2 weeks.
So yeah, that's some homework. Although I do have some spring break coming up and a trip planned. Maybe I can cram some of it in.
Well, if you get into it, I don't know. It's intriguing. I didn't realize when I started watching it that there are time jumps, and it's really kind of interesting how they are doing that. Like, because often I feel like they wouldn't necessarily have to. You know what I mean? If you really wanted to drag it out more, there's stuff that they could work with, but instead they're just like, man, we're just going to jump 10 years. So it's kind of interesting structure to it, you know, and it also means I was reading that they're planning like 7 seasons, and so I'm like, okay, well, I'm doing some math. I don't want to get into spoiler territory, but there are enough time jumps that, you know, I feel like that our main character at some point is just gonna, like, he would be too old to be alive, but maybe, I don't know, or maybe he lives to be really old, and that's as far as the show goes, and that's their plan or something. But
Don't
it's
you
pretty
like?
good. I'm talking about Joe.
Don't you like age more slowly in space? Obviously, I mean, I've never seen the show, but like, can't we do something with
You
that?
know, I don't know. They do some interesting stuff. It's Joel Kinnaman, and you know he's like the lead of the show, so
Yeah.
hopefully it doesn't feel like a spoiler at all to say like, hey, he's still alive. He's in the trailer like prominently and stuff. But and yeah, overall pretty good cast, and I've been enjoying it. It's definitely pretty close to hard sci-fi, you know,
Mm.
insofar as it's like a kind of alternate history of the space program and the space race with Russia and all of that kind of stuff. You know, I don't know if everything is,
Yeah.
you know, scientifically realistic down to, you know, dotting I's and T's, you know, but it kind of aims to be at least. So I don't know. I recommend it.
Well, I mean, I'm a
Um,
little bit, more of a space head than a lot of folks out there, being from Houston, having been to NASA quite a bit. So, I mean, the way you describe it, it does intrigue me. I may have to see if I can do some magic here to catch up on this.
yeah, I think season 5 comes out like March 27th or something like that. So,
Okay.
you know, no, a ton of time left. Um, we got a couple things on our sheet. You checked out Rooster? I haven't checked it out yet. What do you think?
I did check out Rooster, HBO, Steve Carell, comedy that's come out. I call it a comedy. It's very charming. Some really good performances. I was just kind of mixed on it. Really going hard on some of the uh, liberal arts, Northeast college stereotypes. There's some wild things that happen here as part of the plot of him, why he's at this school and what he's doing in this at this college. It made me chuckle a couple times. So I'll probably keep checking it out, but it didn't blow me away. I'll say for an HBO show, especially, I thought it was going to be a little bit better.
All right, interesting. Yeah, I may have to check it out. We were talking about it when the trailer came out and things like that. And so, how do you feel it's doing in terms of portraying, you know, academia?
Well,
Yeah,
I'll just say one. This is not a spoiler for anything, but the first time you meet the president of the university, Steve Carell walks into his office and the guy is stripped out of his clothes, like he's not wearing anything.
Oh, okay.
So we're way on the deep end here of realism of what would happen.
Yeah, totally realistic. I guess speaking of authority figures in schools, you want to talk a little bit about this Saturday Night Live sketch? Oh, she did watch it and watch the whole episode. It's Ryan Gosling, and he's the principal, and they're like reading notes. But the distinctive thing is that basically the actors don't know what the notes are going to say. I guess, right? Thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I'm sure people have caught this. I'm one of the last remaining handful of people that watches Saturday Night Live, but this was, I think, caught my attention for this very reason that as this skit was happening in real time, a disclaimer of sorts was put up on the screen saying, these notes that they're reading have been changed since rehearsal. And so the audience is in on it. You as the viewer are in on it. But Ryan Gosling and Ashley Padilla, who are the ones reading these notes, are not part of what's happening. And so it was interesting, and it generated a lot of conversation because one of Lorne Michaels' original rules in the show is you don't intentionally try to make the characters break or make them laugh or do something to kick them out of the scene. This is maybe most famously done with Bill Hader when he would do Stefan in the New York City
Yeah.
report. But this was a very intentional, we're going to try to make them break and not understand what they're about to see here. And I just found it interesting that they're sort of bending the rules a little bit as we get into season 51 of Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting way of playing with the rules, and I was entertained. I was watching it on YouTube, so I read some of the YouTube comments, which is often a mistake. You know,
Yeah.
but it wasn't a huge mistake this time, really. But there were a number of people saying like, "Oh, this is great. They should do this more." And I guess I do think no, you'd wear this out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Yeah. This is yeah, they did Stefan, 10 years ago. They brought it back this weekend. We need to put this on the shelf for a while again.
Well, with Stefan though, I don't know. Is I reading this wrong? I felt like they were always trying to not break, but like couldn't help it with some
They
of that
would
stuff.
as Stefan would do here's what you need to go see in New York. They would change what he had rehearsed into what he was saying on Live Weekend Update. And so he just couldn't
Oh, I see.
he couldn't contain himself when he started talking about, you know, Jewish Draculas and stuff like that they were just throwing at him in real
Yeah,
time.
this place has
And so
everything, and yeah.
yeah, so this just sort of revisits a little bit of that.
I did see, by the way, it's not directly TV, but I remember talking about it back when Barry was ending. Bill Hader is currently working on a horror film. See
Yes.
that?
Yes.
Hmm. Directing, I think he's writing or co-writing. I think he's going to star in it. Um, just to mention because I recall during the final season of Barry at one point saying like, I hope Bill Hader makes a horror film, you know, uh, and he's doing it, so that's good. I will actually watch a movie. Um, some stuff in the news. I don't even know if this bear story I thought was kind of weird. Did you read this story from Hollywood Reporter? Because the headline's very much like the bear's going to end with season 5, but the details feel like that's not actually officially confirmed. It's like Jamie Lee Curtis said something.
Yeah, Jamie Lee
What do you think?
Curtis says it's going to end. She says that she doesn't think she's breaking any news because that was, what's her quote here? They've said it from the beginning, which I don't think is actually true. So it's just a bunch of misinformation. But I think it's ending after 5. But just because Jamie Lee Curtis says it, I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, that was kind of how I felt about it. Because at first I was like, oh, they confirmed it. And then I read the story and I'm like, this is, I guess it's a step more official than you and I saying to each other, I think season 5 will probably be the end, but only only a little bit, only a little bit because it's someone involved. It reminded me in many ways. Maybe it's something about the headspace that I've been in the past couple of days. I mentioned NFL free agency and tracking it and such, earlier, and you see a lot of quote unquote reporting like that coming from the NFL circles around this time. Like some person at ESPN says they think Alec Pierce will get 8 targets a game. Like,
So
you have a
ESPN
source
can
with
then
the
report
team?
on that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Is this news? I don't know. But anyway, I do kind of expect the Bear to wrap up. If you think about it just narratively, I don't know how much story there is to tell. Um, and this article also said that it's in production, and I'm not sure what their timeline has generally been in terms of all the filming and the production and so on, but they have been pretty tight about putting it out each June. So I don't know if we should expect season 5 this June or if it's going to take longer.
Yeah, I seem to remember that their typical production timeline was to film maybe in late January through early March in Chicago, and then they would quickly produce these things so it's ready for a late June. So I think they're on track with that, but all this, of course, speculation, and we'll just have to see in the months
Yeah,
ahead.
I think so too. And it used to be, maybe it still is with some of these network shows, but I doubt it. But I don't know for sure. But I know that it used to be when you have like these 22 episode long seasons, they'd be making the show while the show was airing,
Yes, yes.
and there are some instances in the past where they tried to adjust based on how well they thought things were working or audience responses or things like that. So it's much more common these days for them to have the whole season produced and then start releasing it. But also, I'm excited about the Lowdown season 2. No idea when we're going to get that. But speaking of FX here, we did get a casting announcement, and I'm pretty excited about this one. Ryan and Betty Gilpin. I'm a fan. Um, I'm presuming you still haven't watched the Lowdown,
I knew you were going to
right?
ask me that. I have still not watched it. However, I have
I
watched last
figured you would
couple.
have mentioned it.
Yeah, the last couple of things that Betty Gilpin has done, we have. I think we've both watched. Certainly, Mrs. Davis, and yeah, I mean, this is just. Oh, if I didn't already have it high on the list to do, which I promise you I do, this would make what you have told me is a wonderful show even better in season two.
Yeah. No, and no idea, what her character is going to be. I don't know if other people know based on source material of some kind or whatever, because I feel like they name her character in this article, but it means nothing to me. One of those
Okay.
things, you know what I mean? So, um, but yeah, looking forward to that. More casting news on the White Lotus, since we've kind of made that one of our beats. Comments about the new casting news for the White Lotus.
Yeah, I mean, we've got to be close to a full hotel at this point. We've got about 13 or 14 names. Most recently, we got just about a week ago, almost a week ago. The biggest name would be Vincent Castle, very well known actor, although I don't know that he's done much television before. Cortina Fia, and then Nadia. I won't even attempt to say her last name, but you can look at this and figure out who she is. But last three, this is sort of rounds out the Sandra Bernhardt, Helen Bonham Carter news that we got recently. So I think we're probably close to being done. Vincent Castle, knowing that this is set in France, I think this is going to be a wonderful addition.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And still no indications of connections to previous seasons as of yet,
That's
are
right.
there?
That
I don't think
not that
that
we have
there are.
seen
So
in casting news. Sometimes they've kept that a surprise. Sometimes they let us know in advance. But knowing Mike White, of course, the rumor now is he's going to try to. I'm not watching any Survivor 50, but Mike White is on Survivor 50. Rumor is he's going to try to recruit a couple of them to come onto White Lotus in various roles.
interesting. Yeah. So still early stages, I think, but I know that's a show that we both enjoy. So looking forward to it whenever we get it. Speaking of HBO, I guess Lanterns is HBO, not HBO Max, and who even knows what's going to happen to the branding moving forward? Like, why have I been so careful about trying to distinguish this branding when they keep making it a mess? But anyway, did you watch this trailer for Lanterns? I mean, I was kind of excited about it.
Absolutely. I mean, I have to say I was already intrigued just knowing who's behind it and who's starring in this before I saw this trailer. Yeah, this trailer, I mean, put the lock on it. I'm definitely in on this. I've seen this comparison to True Detective a couple of different places. I don't know if this is just HBO people thinking and telling people that it's like True Detective, but I mean, this is not Ryan Reynolds out in space. This looks like, they're in gritty Oklahoma trying to solve a murder, and I'll absolutely be there for Aaron Pierre and Kyle Chandler.
Yeah, me too. Very intrigued, particularly because at least to me, and you're maybe more of a comics guy than I am when it comes down to it, or that kind of thing. The Green Lantern always struck me as a bit sillier than
Yeah.
other things. So doing a kind of, I don't know, gritty
Yeah.
Green Lantern show is, I'm intrigued anyway. I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah, you sort of get reference to that in the Kyle Chandler line where he talks about one of the lanterns is a squirrel and the rest of them are aliens.
Uh,
So yeah, there's a lot of campiness to Green Lantern, but there's also an interesting lore there among the people who have been the lanterns and how it's been passed along. So you can sort of tell that sort of, old guy going out, passing the torch to the new guy sort of feel here with this show. So I think that part could be intriguing.
yeah, it looks like that's what they're going for here. Should be interesting. Um, oh, would have made sense to segue from the SNL bit to the SNL bit, but we didn't do that. Have you? So this is about SNL UK. Is this something that you're familiar with? I'm not sure I even knew it existed.
So only recently have I become aware of this. I guess SNL has been licensed out to create their own Saturday Night Live version in the UK. It's going to start March 21st. No surprise, it's going to land on Peacock. I think that was probably predictable. I guess I'm just sort of on the fence as how this will work. Is it going to be much more of a British tone to it? Are they just going to copy and paste what they do here? Just odd that after all these years, it's something it's not like the UK is wanting for more variety or shows like this. So it's just an interesting move.
Yeah, I mean, I would expect that it would be more focused on the UK, right? And
Yeah.
that they put together their whole own writers' room and staff and
Yes.
all of that, and make jokes about British politics and stuff that we won't understand. And but as you say, yeah, I feel like there's always been so much sketch comedy and such coming
Yes.
out of the UK. Kind of interesting that they're trying to expand the SNL branding like this, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, that's the
But
thing. Will
I
this
don't
just
know.
get lost over there? Do they have the same appetite for it that we at least used to? I'll be very curious to see what happens to it.
Yeah, yeah, me too. Curious to track what goes on there. I mean, the biggest question would be, is it popular in the UK, right? Because
Yeah.
at least on a first pass, it's not for us. We might enjoy it, maybe I'll check it out just out of curiosity because they're putting it on Peacock. Um, but my expectation would be that if they're doing this, it would be sort of UK centric, because otherwise, why do it? There's nothing stopping people in the UK from watching the American version
That's right.
if they
That's right.
want to. You know what I mean? Unless there is, I don't know about distribution of the American version.
Yeah.
But there are ways. You know, get yourself a friend with a Plex server or whatever. Um, all right, I think that about covers it in terms of the news. You ready to talk about Paradise?
Yeah, yeah, let's do this episode.
All right, we're up to season 2, episode 5, which airs this Monday, called The Mailman. Spoilers will be on the table for everything in Paradise through season 2, episode 5. We'll put a little bit of music in here and be back with you in just about 10 seconds.
Okay, we're back to talk about Paradise, Season 2, Episode 5, The Mailman. This episode written by Katie French and directed by Liza Johnson. Several years before the apocalypse event, Mailman Gary befriends Ennis online, and the two get interested in conspiracy theories and planning for an extinction-level event. Gary learns that his post office was built as a fallout shelter in the 1950s, so he begins getting it ready to use for any sort of future event. They recruit 5 other people to live in the shelter with them, each with various set of skills. And when the event happens after the Antarctic volcano eruption, the 7 make their way to the shelter. Along the way, Gary and Ennis pick up Terry and a neglected boy named Bean. In the next few years, the group is able to survive, but Ennis becomes more controlling. Gary builds Terry a radio and does admit that he is in love with her, but Ennis destroys it after Terry uses it to try to contact Xavier and her family. A peaceful group arrives by train, claiming that they are using Army biodiesel fuel to travel to the bunker in Colorado. Before Terry can learn about this, Gary kills Ennis so that he will not be able to tell her. In the present, Gary lies to Xavier, claiming that the group is hostile and they kidnapped Terry and Bean. Xavier builds a bomb and has a plan to distract them and rescue Terry, unaware that she is not actually there. I like this episode, but we are still far, far away from the bunker.
Yeah.
That you okay with that so far? We haven't been back there in a while.
Um, well, I started to feel a little bit frustrated because they did leave us on a cliffhanger there with
Hmm.
Jane killing the president and everything. Um, and then they left us on a cliffhanger here also,
Yep.
right? And it's not really, I'm relatively okay with the fact that we haven't gone back to the bunker yet. But what I started to feel a little bit frustrated about is now I want next week's episode to be two things, and I feel like it can only be one of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you could tell by we don't necessarily need to give it away, but the title of next week's episode, which is available, will tell us exactly where we are next week, which is going to leave one of these
Yeah.
two storylines hanging here. Which means at that point we'll be in episode 7, which means we're in the penultimate episode. So it's like a lot to do in two different locations.
Yeah, and I can kind of, it comes into view for me, I think, how I expect that structure will probably play out. So if we're going to be left hanging here, that's the thing more that, you asked whether I was frustrated about not getting back to the bunker. And in some ways, yes, and I want to pick up that thread of the story. But it's weird because when I was watching this episode, I guess I actually expected this episode to go further than it did.
Mm, yes,
And
yes.
so for it to leave off right where it did, which does feel like a cliffhanger, now I'm a little bit okay. So if we go back to the bunker, like probably, so we go back to the bunker next week. All right. Then we go back to Atlanta in episode 7, and then everything comes together in episode 8. Right. And okay, fine. But man, people who are watching this show week to week are just gonna binge this so fast, right?
Yeah, that's
Like
right.
because it's like one of those things. I always think about it more in terms of reading a book that does this kind of thing, where there are different perspectives, and you leave off one character and you really want to, see what happens next, but the next 5 chapters are about different things. You just keep reading the book,
That's
you
right.
know. Um, this structure is similar to that sort of thing. So not a big complaint on my end. Just, I mean, I guess I'm frustrated in the way they want me to be
Yeah, yeah.
when it comes down to it.
In the way that keeps you watching, certainly from week to week, because we
Yeah,
want to know what happened. I felt exactly the same way you did. I assumed up until the last 5 minutes of this episode, when it looks like the clock is running down, that oh, Xavier's going to learn what's happening here. He's going to come up with his plan. He's going to rescue Terry. They're going to reunite, and we're all on the way back to Colorado. And then they throw this twist in there at the end about, Ennis is not thrown them under the bus. Terry has not been kidnapped, seemingly, unless it's by Gary. And so now we've got to deal with, this whole plan. And then how does Xavier learn that that's not the case, and then get them back from wherever they are?
yeah. Let's talk about that because I was interested to ask you. This was maybe the big thing that I had in mind as I was mentally kind of preparing for a conversation. You called it a twist, and that's fair. I don't know if it felt like a twist to me, so I was curious how
Mm,
much of it did to you. Um, in other words, I never trusted that guy.
mm.
I mean, I didn't. The shit, like they didn't manage to get me trusting Gary to where it felt like a rug pull. I was suspicious of him throughout, and I don't know how much of it is the actor Cameron Britton, who I think is very good.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh, yeah.
primarily familiar with from Mindhunter,
Yep.
where he plays like a charming serial killer guy, right?
Yeah.
So, and like his demeanor, I think, is somewhat similar in this episode, or similar enough that throughout I was like, I don't know if I trust this guy. And, there are also some ways in which he is like semi incel coded or adjacent or
Yeah.
whatever. Um, but yeah, I didn't really trust him, so it didn't land for me as so much of a shocking twist, I guess. But they still left us where we don't even know what happened to Terry. We don't have any idea where she is,
Right.
right? Like in your summary, I think you said something like Terry's not there at the train. We don't. I mean, we actually don't know. Maybe she is there.
Yeah.
You know, maybe she did find out anyway that this group is planning to take the train to Colorado, and Gary's trying to use Xavier to um, undermine that, right?
Yeah, I think
Their ability to do so.
that's a great point. There's either two paths here that we're going. One is, this is idiotic of you, Xavier, to go in and take on all these people. Go ahead and try. That way I've got Terry all to myself. Or, yes, you're right. They could have, I didn't even think about this, but they could have Terry. I need somebody to help me get her out. Then I'll take care of you so that I can still have Terry either way. She doesn't go off to Colorado.
Yeah. Although I don't, it's I don't necessarily think that he's that evil.
Mm,
So I don't know. I'm curious about it, right? Like I feel like it lands well enough to think that he would be trying to sabotage Terry's ability um, to leave.
yeah, yeah.
Was he already like planning to sabotage the mail truck plan? I don't know, but maybe he hadn't even. I don't feel like this Gary character had formulated a real rational plan or
Mm,
whatever. It's almost like he kills Enos in that spur of the moment kind of
yes.
way,
Yeah.
where he just can't deal with the idea that they're going to go back and tell Terry and she's going to be gone, like that. So, um,
How much do you get a sense of how much time you think has passed between when he kills Enos and Xavier shows up? Are we talking a few days? Is this weeks? I mean, they only said that the train was going to be there for 2 weeks, so it can't be that much time.
yeah, I feel like it must have not been that much time. I don't know if they tell us precisely. I guess it would still be a question of whether you believe what Gary says, but
Yeah.
he does say a number of days, like 11 or 12 days or something like that, to Xavier towards the beginning of the episode. So, yeah. Uh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like, okay, this is very coincidental, right? Yeah. If Xavier managed to get there a couple weeks earlier, then Terry would just be hanging out,
Yeah, exactly,
uh,
exactly. Yeah. And I think
but
in the
so
end,
it goes.
I was too gullible and bought in too much to, I mean, this could be right. Gary could have her locked up somewhere, but, bought into the idea that Ennis was sort of becoming a bad guy of sorts. He does have this touching moment with Terry near the end, but he was becoming this bad guy
Yeah,
where you could see maybe it's not too far a stretch that after a few years he becomes this person who refuses to let people leave, and and he would turn them in if it came down to that, because they're sort of positioning him as this jerk who's gonna do all that he can to protect the group. And so I don't know, that's where I sort of got the sense of why this transpired perhaps the way that I thought that it did. But yeah, that, or
yeah,
why I thought it was a bigger twist maybe than you did.
yeah. Well, I mean, I was just watching most of the episode unsure about whether
Yeah,
I trusted Gary and what he
yeah.
would, I was just suspicious. I can't say that I watched it all in a first pass thinking, oh, I've got this figured out the whole time. Like, no, Gary's actually the bad guy here, because they do plant some seeds to make us suspicious of Enos and all of that. It would seem that he actually did destroy the radio, for example, um, and so on. Speaking of the timing of everything, this is part of why I hesitated a little bit a moment ago, because I guess it also means that Jack and Crystal left very recently,
Yes. Yeah.
where that felt like it was longer ago somehow, the way it was presented. But that must have also only been a few weeks, I guess.
Yeah, this community, this trading village has popped up pretty quickly, it seems, and they've joined that. For some reason, I thought that was longer as well, but I guess the timing doesn't exactly work out.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it doesn't matter all that much how long it's been. I did feel like Did I miss anything here? Let me ask you. What happened to the other people? There's like three other people, I think, who just kind of disappear from the story. At least,
Yeah. Yeah. The carpenter, the
yeah.
gardener,
Okay.
and the survivalist guy. Yeah.
I didn't miss what happened to them. We just didn't see what happened to them.
I have no, maybe they moved on. Maybe I have no idea. Maybe they're still there.
I mean, it seemed to me like they were already gone by the time that Jack and Crystal were leaving. At least we don't see them in that scene or anything like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I don't know if that matters either. Although I think Gary does say something towards the beginning of the episode about everyone being taken or something. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's definitely some of the questions here I'm really intrigued by in a way where, well, I just want to watch you know, the follow up of the story to find out. There are a couple of little things where I feel like, why didn't the show just fill this in a little bit better? And I don't know if they will in the future.
That
And
that
that was
was
one of them. Like, what
ex
happened to these other people?
exactly my critique. I mean, not necessarily a critique, but a comment that we're going to have to definitely spend some time going through this, presumably in episode 7 now, figuring out what's going on. I, I suppose we can't count anything out that, something tragic could happen to Terry, could happen to Bean, something certainly tragic could happen to Gary. So we're going to have to resolve that before, we have any sort of reunion back at the back of the bunker, if there is one at the end of the season.
Right. And speaking of timing, I'm wondering about the timing of Link and the others showing up outside the bunker
Hmm.
in relation to the story inside the bunker and now in relation to the story in Atlanta. And I don't know if it's entirely clear, but I think the show's lining it up to where it's like these things are happening at the same time. Because when in the previous episode before Link and the others go, Link and Geiger or whatever,
Hmm.
I feel like there's some remark that I'm now reading as we're not going to wait for the train people anymore. We've waited long enough.
Yeah, so I did have that same question, which is there's a large convoy of people that makes its way to the bunker. But I was presuming that that convoy is absent of these people that are trying to slowly make it there via via train. They have the limitations of only can go where the tracks are. They have to have certain kind of fuel. So they're sort of left behind, as it were, as the rest of the group tries to make its way into the bunker.
Yeah, I think that's right. Really curious to see what happens here. The thing is, though, too, if we're going to speculate at all, I believe when Gary kills Enos, Bean sees him do that, right?
That's what it implies. He's sort of off behind the woods or
Yeah,
something and sees this.
I think that's implied pretty strongly. And if that's the case, then I would almost guess that okay, Bean runs and tells Terry, and they flee or something. Maybe they are on the train, right? Maybe they did figure it out, and now Gary's trying to sabotage it. I
Yeah.
don't
Oh,
know.
that's a good point. So he has lost them because being witnessed that they ran because they're afraid of him.
Yeah,
And so he knows if Xavier finds out that they're gone and he did something, Xavier's going to kill him. So let's just send Xavier into this, in this situation with a bunch of armed guards, and they'll take care of him. So I don't have to worry about it. I don't have her. I can't actually show him or figure out
yeah,
where she is, and so let's sort of handle this situation that way. Then maybe I can go search for them if I want to.
yeah. I think it must be something like that. I find it hard to imagine that Gary's got them chained up in the basement or something. It
Yeah.
doesn't seem like that would fit quite right with who this guy is and the whole situation. So yeah, really curious to see yeah, further thoughts on the baby. You put something about the baby in her notes here.
I'm just further convinced that this was just not. I mean, he's like on the top of the train, peering with the binoculars, and the baby's pressed against the train while he's trying to, see who's down there, and then he won't give the baby to Gary, but he will give it to
Mhm.
to Jack and to Crystal. Was that her name?
I believe so, yeah.
And just I'm still struggling with what the purpose of having this baby here is.
Well, first of all, Ryan, babies are built to survive
That's right.
earthquakes.
You can survive a bomb if you can survive
So
an earthquake. Yeah.
I don't know what that problem is. But yeah, no. I mean, it's kind of I don't know how I feel about the baby being in the story at all,
Yeah.
but I don't want to harp on that too much. I kind of have already on previous episodes a little bit. Um, it worked relatively well for me here. It made sense to me that Xavier didn't trust Gary with the baby. And
Yeah.
then you get this moment where he gets to say something about Terry viewing the bedtime story as sacred or whatever.
Mm.
So the fact that she would trust Jack with it, I don't know. It all works for me, like kind of
Yeah.
well enough. But it is just okay. So maybe this is part of what bothers me because it's almost like a trick, right? Like you have no choice but to care about the baby because it's a baby
Yes.
as a member of the audience, basically. Um, but they fridge the baby's mother, and Link doesn't know the baby exists.
Right.
So I don't know how that's going to go either. And
Yeah. What's
if
the
they
baby
decided
is
to do this, I guess they have reason.
the baby's still going to be an issue when they make it when and if they make it back to the bunker because they're going to presumably connect the baby with her father, and then yeah, that's going to be a whole deal of how that's handled. Maybe Link is not much of a part of the story after this season, but I just don't know.
Well, I mean, really, you can't know how he's going to react, you know?
Yeah.
Um, I don't know that everyone would say, oh, you've shown up with a baby that you say is mine.
Yeah.
I believe you and I love the baby now. You know what I mean? It's possible he could
Yeah.
react another way. So,
Let me ask you another question
yeah.
about Xavier. They talk about this point at the end where Terry, sorry, where Gary admits to being in love with her. Xavier, says, "I knew you were hiding something," shakes his hand. You think Xavier believes that that's all he was hiding?
I mean, it does sort of feel like it. Does sort of feel like it. I'm not positive, you know. I mean, on the one hand, Xavier has shown himself to be pretty savvy, whatever word we
Yeah.
might want there. But there have been elements to his character where he's felt at times to maybe a little naive. You know, in the previous episode, when he goes to the stranger's house to get Annie help with her pregnancy, um, he's not punished for his naivete. He actually manages to get help. It's like, oh, I trusted in the goodness of people and it worked out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if he has that tendency at play here, um, that could be a problem. So I guess I'm not sure though, because throughout the episode he does seem suspicious of Gary. He's not trusting Gary immediately.
Yeah.
So is that moment sufficient um, for him to think, oh well, it's because Gary was hiding these romantic feelings for my wife, and
Yeah.
that was it, you know?
I just think if I'm Xavier and I've had the training that I've had, I would want to put, maybe he will, I would want to go and try to put eyes on Terry before I set off a bomb somewhere and create this distraction to try to get her. I mean, he's going to have to do some reconnaissance to find out where she is, right? Not just trust Gary that he's telling the truth about that.
Yeah. My fear, though, is that it's not going to go like that. He's been duped by Gary sufficiently, and so he will set off the bomb and like manage to find Terry,
Mm,
and then we'll have that moment where she's happy to see him, but really confused about what he's doing, and then they try to figure it out in the middle of a gunfight kind of thing. That's the sort of thing I would expect from the show, I think.
yeah, yeah, I can see that. Oh, I'd hate to think about the outcome of where like Um, bomb goes off, something inadvertent happens, you know, injures Terry. She's,
Oh,
she's dying. Something happens. Collins is like now out for revenge. And that's why he's going back to the bunker to, kill them all. Something like that.
yeah, I hope not. I hope not. There was so I was watching something else recently where they did one of those things where it was a uh, it was actually literally a Chekhov's gun kind of situation. You know, the original thing that Anton Chekhov said, if you introduce a gun, the second act has to go off by the third act or whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
It was very much that, and then it was just like gun goes off randomly, and then this is it's almost a cliche thing where it's almost like the camera pans and you slowly discover that this character that you love has been shot. You know what I mean?
uh,
So I hope they don't do anything like that because it feels a little cheap. You
yeah.
know what I mean? Like you
Chekhov's
can have
bomb. Chekhov's
character,
bomb. Yeah.
you can have character deaths and stuff like that, but that particular move of there's a lot of chaos and then oh no, this person was just got shot accidentally. Oh,
Yeah.
that sort of thing is almost like
Yeah.
I don't know, it's a little worn out in my mind. So hopefully we don't have something like that happen, and they all survive and they take the train to Colorado, and this all seems interesting enough to me in terms of how those things come together, right? If you do have Xavier and Terry and the people on the train returning to the bunker, and Link and his group outside the bunker, and then what's going on inside the bunker, and all of that sort of coming to a head to conclude the season. That'd work. I wish there were more than 8 episodes too. Eight
Yeah.
episodes is
I
too
just
short.
I don't want to get hung up on the timing, but I don't think we know how long it takes the train to go from one place to the next place, how far they're able to go on a quote unquote tank of fuel, but then they have to stay for 2 weeks. It's like, so, I mean, Link is clearly not going to just sit out there for 2 or 4 or 6 weeks and, wait to get let in. So, as you were alluding to earlier, what's the alignment of this timing to make this all work out here as we approach the end of the season?
Yeah, I almost feel like the situation at the bunker is likely to come to a head meaningfully
Yeah.
before the Atlanta group gets there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so.
Yeah. Um. All right. Anything else we want to hit on this one?
I think that's good. I think we're good here.
Yeah, I think we're good. It was a good episode, and then, look,
Mhm.
I enjoyed Cameron Britton's performance in it. I don't know what's going to happen to Gary. Part of me feels like he's not long for this story, but we'll see. I mean,
Yeah.
not that he's necessarily going to die, but he's going to be found out. He's not going to be like
Yeah.
welcomed into the group or whatever. So
Go watch him on
we'll see.
on Mindhunter. He's fantastic.
Yeah, I feel like there was some rumor about, hey, maybe they actually will make more Mindhunter again.
Yes.
Talking about a show that's been like canceled and rumored and canceled and rumored, and we're probably never getting any more Mindhunter. We are going to get some more Paradise. We'll be back next week talking about season 2, episode 6. Hopefully, you will join us. And hopefully, you enjoyed the podcast. If so, please do leave a good rating, review, all that good stuff. If you're on YouTube, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check out TVObscast.com. Find written work on all sorts of TV shows there. If you want to follow the site on social media, search for TV Obsessive. You should find us. And as for the podcast, we'll be back with you next week.
All right. We will see you then.